Hey guys, Lisa L McClain, CFEI, the Certified Financial Educator and your Entrepreneur Transformational Coach. Listen, I have some information I want to give to you today. This is additional. This isn't my Winning with Lisa show on my Winning and Living Golden channel, but I wanted to come in and give you some special information to answer a question that came up in my community this past couple of days ago, and I wanted to take some time and address this question specifically to or for LLCs that are applying for their EIN number on paper. So as we know, the IRS has an online form or online format that you can use to apply for your EIN, which is very convenient. It's actually fast and convenient to do it online. But for those of you who are applying for your EIN, your employer identification number, on paper using this SS-4 form, I wanted to answer the question specifically to my LLCs. As you know, I am a entrepreneur transformational coach, and my goal and my passion is to help and cater to the entire entrepreneur, to help you from the start of your business and to help you grow your business through my books, my courses, my workshops, bookkeeping, tax preparation, helping you prepare business plans and apply for loans and that sort of thing. So with this is the start of an LLC actually legitimizing their business with an employer identification number, and so that you can use that to go and apply for your bank account and apply for business credit, get that loan, whatever your goals are as an LLC. But this specific question was specific to the box 9A on this form. So the box 9A, I'm going to show this form to you. So this form, I highlighted 8A, the box 8A right there. And that is asking you, is this application for a limited liability company, right? And so we're going to actually mark yes for that as an LLC. And then 8B asks you, here in 8B, it asks you how many LLC members do you have? And so there we're going to actually, for a single member LLC, it's going to be 1. That's a disregarded entity. It's similar to a sole proprietorship as a disregarded entity, except that as an LLC, now you have the limited liability that comes along with registering your business with your state as an LLC. So before I go any further, I want to make sure that I make this statement that this is not official tax advice to you. It is not official legal advice, and so I'm providing this information for your information purposes and for educational purposes, but always check with your provider, your professional that can give you specific advice for your specific situation. So that's my disclaimer. And so we're looking at this SS-4 form, right? And so So we answered 1 for a single member LLC, or single member LLC, again, is a disregarded entity, just like a sole proprietorship. And that means that your business is disregarded as a separate entity from you, that you're one and the same. And that's with regard to tax purposes, for tax filing, federal tax filing purposes. So for a disregarded entity, which is a single member LLC, or a sole proprietorship, you are filing your business, your LLC taxes inside of your individual tax form, which is that 1040 form. And you're going to report that information from your business either on a Schedule C, E, or F, usually a C, but depending on what your business activity is, you could be using a Schedule E or a Schedule F. And so I wanted to make sure that we covered that part where it's saying how many members. Now, if you are a multi-member LLC, which means you have 2 or more members of your LLC, you're going to actually write 2 or more, whatever the number is, in that blank there, and just FYI, if you live in a community property state, in that specific box, that 8B box where it's asking you for the number of members of your LLC, you can actually, if you would like to be considered a disregarded entity, even though you have multiple members of your LLC, if it's you and your spouse. So for those people who have the LLC, it's just you and your spouse, and you live in a community property state and would like to be considered as a disregarded entity, you can actually put a number 1 in that box. So I just wanted to make sure that I covered that little piece. I won't go into any further details on community property states and what that means, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew if that is your case and you'd like to be considered a disregarded entity for tax purposes, you can do that by marking a 1 if you are a multi-member LLC that has 2 spouses working together as members of that LLC. And then I wanted to make sure that we also talked about disregarded entity versus if you are a multi-member LLC that has more than 1 member, and you are going to be not a disregarded entity, but for federal tax purposes, you will be considered a partnership for tax purposes only. And let me repeat that. It's only for tax purposes. So the federal government, the IRS, did not set up a separate classification for LLCs and how LLCs are going to be taxed, y'all. And so when it comes to filing your federal taxes for your business that's a multi-member LLC, your default tax classification is going to be a partnership, meaning you are going to be filing a 1065 partnership return. That is the default tax classification for a multi-member LLC. So I wanted to make sure that you knew that. And then, so we're gonna keep going. We're gonna go get to this 9A, which is what I know everybody wants to get to, that type of entity, right? Let me just look at my notes. I want to make sure that I haven't missed anything I wanted to point out before we get there. We talked about the community property state. The default tax classification for a multi-member LLC, again, is a partnership. The default tax classification for a single member LLC is the disregarded entity. With both of those classifications, guys, if you would like to alter, oh, there went one of my earrings. If you would like to alter alter that tax classification for either your single member LLC that it's defaulted as a disregarded entity, or for your multi-member LLC that's defaulted as a partnership for tax purposes, if you want to change that to a different tax classification, you can do that. You can do that. And so for the single member LLC, the disregarded entity, if you would like to be taxed as a corporation or as an S Corp, you would need to file a separate form to do that. You do not do that with your EIN. There's a box here that's the 9A box that we're about to get to that asks you, what's the type of entity? That does not give you your tax classification. That is not where you elect and select and classify your entity for tax purposes. And the IRS points that out very clearly, that that is not what the EIN form is for. That is not what that form SS-4 is for. So I wanted to make sure that we knew that. A form 2553 is the form that you would use as either a single member LLC or a multi-member LLC in order to elect S Corp status for tax purposes for your LLC. And if you want to elect to be if you're a partnership, if you're a multi-member LLC and you want to go from, instead of that default tax classification as a partnership, you like to be taxed as a corporation, then you would have to use a different form. Yet again, it's a form 8832. And so I want to make sure that you knew that those two forms have to be filed if you want to change from what the default tax classification is for your type of entity. So I think I have covered all the notes I wanted to cover before I get to box 9. Yes, if you accept the default classifications, which is disregarded entity for a one-member LLC or a single-member LLC, you're going to be filing your income and expenses on your individual tax return. I think I said that. For partnership, it's going to be the multi-member LLC is going to be taxed as a partnership, and you're going to be using a 1065 partnership return if you remain with those default tax classifications. So let's jump to box number 9A. That's what we're here for. Type of entity. If you're an LLC, whether you're a single member LLC or multi-member LLC, I got you. I want to make sure I cover both of your situations for how do I fill out this paper form of this form SS-4. So box 9A is it's not an election for tax classification for your entity. Remember, you must file that either that 8832 form or the 2553 form to change the tax classification of your LLC. Your LLC will retain its EIN even if its federal tax classification changes. So I want to make sure that you know that your EIN doesn't change just because your tax classification changes. And so, don't apply for a new EIN for your existing entity that has an EIN if you're in the process of changing its tax classification. That's not something that you need to do. So for the single member LLC, with regard to this box 9A, you are not a sole proprietorship. You're not a sole proprietorship. If you are a single member LLC, that means you have one member, you're one owner. I have lots of those myself. You're not a sole proprietorship. A sole proprietorship is using its social security number. It's not required to be registered with the state outside of having a fictitious name if you're not using your legal name in your business activities. And you should not be operating using your SSN. If you are a single member LLC, go get that EIN, get that business bank account, get that business credit. If you are a single member LLC, use that EIN. So don't select this box here that says sole proprietorship. That's not for you. You're an LLC. We're not putting our social security number on here. We are an LLC, whether you're a single member or a multi-member LLC, but we're talking about single member LLCs right now. So box 9A, the sole proprietorship box, is not for you. What we're going to do for a single member LLC, it's just you, just one owner. We're going to, see, I highlighted this other box down here. We're going to check that box other. And beside that box, there is a line for you to fill in, for you to write in information. So we're going to write in disregarded entity dash single member LLC. Now above, you've already indicated to the IRS in 8A, 8B, and 8C that you are an LLC. So they know you're an LLC, but we're going to let them know that we are a disregarded entity dash single member LLC. And when you do that, you're now letting the IRS know basically that I agree with the disregarded entity, that I don't have any plans to change my tax classification from that to an S corp or to a corporation. Now, for the multi-member LLC, it's you and your husband, you and your wife, or you and your business partner, or multiple business partners. You're a multi-member LLC. You, again, we already talked about the sole proprietorship. You are not a sole proprietorship. Do not check that box. Multiple member LLC. You are not a corporation. That was the specific question was asked. Do we check the box for corporation? You are not a corporation. An LLC is a limited liability company. You are not incorporated. So we are not going to check that corporation box. However, there is a situation where you can check. I think I'm going to cover that down further. There is a situation where you can do that, but I'll explain what that is, and we'll get into that. Let me look at my notes. We're not going to check the sole proprietorship box. Yeah, so if you do intend to apply for that S Corp status as a multi-member LLC or a corporation, a C Corp status. Same thing that I told you with the single member LLC. Check that corporation box. That's only if that is your plan, that you're in the process of doing that. That's my next step. I'm going to be applying for S Corp status with the 2553 form or the C Corp status for tax purposes. Not changing the legal entity of my business, but for tax classification purposes. That C Corp, you're going to file the form 8832. And then you're going to put in that box. You're going to check that box, and then in that field next to that box for the multi-member LLC we're talking about now. I don't think I mentioned that before. There's a field beside that box where we're going to actually indicate if we're going to be filing for S Corp status with the 2553 form. Then we're going to put in that field the type of form number that's going to be filed for tax purposes is going to be the S Corp form, and that's an 1120 S form, a 1120-S form. If it is a C Corp, if you're filing with an 8832 form to have a C Corp tax classification, you're going to put in that field 1120, which is the corporation tax return form. So I want to make sure that you saw that and you knew that. So that's if you want to change your tax classification status. Again, this box doesn't do it. You're just notifying the IRS of your awareness of what your entity is or what you're trying to be. But to change your actual tax classification, you must file these forms with the IRS so they have your entity documented as that for tax purposes, and they're looking for that specific tax form. As a matter of fact, when they send you your EIN letter, they're going to indicate on that EIN approval letter what they have defaulted your tax classification for as. So if once you do this EIN and you're not a sole proprietorship, or I think I'm trying to remember, I've done several. I'm trying to remember how the approval letter reads. I know the partnership approval letter actually mentions on there you will be required to file a 1065 form, and the corporation does the same. It tells you that you'll have to file an 1120 form for your tax return for your business. So those are the instances where you would actually file the corporation. You would actually check that corporation box. However, if you are fine with your default partnership tax classification as a multi-member LLC, that's your default. That's what the IRS is going to tax you as a partnership. They're going to be looking for that 1065 partnership tax return. If you're okay with that and you want to stay there, I know I did. I did for a couple of my businesses until I went to an S Corp later. But if you are fine with it and you want to stay with that partnership tax classification as your default, then what you are going to do is check the partnership box. Remember, I said the IRS does not identify with or recognize LLCs for tax purposes. That's a state thing. Limited liability companies is a state thing. The states came up with that stuff. And so the federal government's like, okay, yeah, I see what y'all doing. Y'all trying to come up with all these new innovative ideas for businesses, but the federal government is staying with our sole proprietorship, our partnership, and our corporation. And well, we gave you an S Corp. But they don't have a separate limited liability tax classification. And so that's what you would want to do if you are that multi-member LLC and you're okay with keeping that tax classification of partnership as your default tax classification, then you are going to check partnership box. Partnership box. And so when you do that, you'll receive again that EIN approval letter, which is going to mention on there, according to the documentation we received from you and your on your business, you will be filing a 1065 U.S. partnership tax return. So that was the key thing that I know the question was specifically asking in my community, and I wanted to make sure that I posted this here, and I'm also going to post it in my community as well. But I definitely want to put it on my channel, on my Winning and Living Golden channel on YouTube, so that all of my followers and my community and my subscribers could get this good information and these nuggets here. Remember, if you elect to change your tax classification of your multi-member LLC, that this is not the form to do it with. And I should have printed out the form 2553 so you could see it in the form 8832, so you could see that as well. But just keep those numbers in mind when you're ready to file for your S Corp. It's the 2553. If you want to be taxed as a corporation, it's the 8832. What else? Again, I'm not a lawyer, y'all. I'm not giving y'all legal advice. This is for informational and educational purposes only. Before I go, I will just mention that the limited liability company is defined as a structure that is allowed, again, by state statute. It's formed by filing an articles of organization with your state's Secretary of State. It's unique in its state, so it must be unique in its state. It cannot have another business that has the exact same name of your LLC, or at least that's not active at the same time as your LLC in your state. For federal tax purposes, again, an LLC can be treated as a partnership or a corporation, or it could be disregarded as an entity that's separate from its owner, meaning that it's one and the same with its owner. LLC can have 2 or more members, which is a multi-member LLC, or it can have 1 member, which is a single member LLC. And an LLC can have unlimited number of members, guys. And then also LLC members can be individuals, corporations, other LLCs, or foreign entities. And that's where that foreign, there's a question on the form that asks, is your LLC dealing with a foreign equivalency? So anyway, I hope this information has been good for you. I wanted to make sure that I covered this because this is my area where I'm helping my entrepreneurs to grow, win, thrive, and succeed in your businesses. And this is part of the start of it. Getting that employer identification number, that unique number that's tied to your business. So I hope this information has been amazing for you. Even though this is not my Winning with Lisa show today, I still want you to go and win. This is still where we win. We win. We win. So guys, go and live golden, and I'll see y'all next time. Take care till then. God bless.